This is your interview.
No,
Yeah.
no, I don't want you to argue with me.
No, I certainly don't want to argue with you. What other recollections do you have specific from your time on the board? And you can go through the subsequent conventions or any board meetings that stand out.
Well, I feel bad about my fourth year of I should say my fourth year of being treasurer, which was until the last convention where I ran as corresponding secretary at the last convention. The convention of 2001 in New Orleans was when I ran for corresponding secretary, and at that time I didn't want to be treasurer anymore, but I wanted to be a step above, if you will, being a director. So I chose to run as corresponding secretary because I felt the work was a lot less. Yet you were still on the executive committee, which sort of puts you a step above, if you will, power-wise, than being a director. But I do feel bad about how I kind of sloughed off on my work as treasurer in my fourth year of it. And I lost all my steam and my energy and my wanting to do it, and perhaps the dynamics of the board in the fourth year was not the same as the leadership was not the same as I got in the first 2 years for sure as treasurer. And I think that it's a lesson to be learned by all of us that we need to be cautious and watch for when we reach that point of burnout, that the work that we may have started our term as loving, we need to quit before we get to the point where we do a bad job. Better to not do the job at all than to do the job badly. And so I think I learned that lesson, and I think that's the lesson for the organization, is that we need to be careful about going beyond our level of energy and desire to do the particular job that we say we're going to do. As well as being very careful about sitting in a board meeting and agreeing to do such and such and such and such, and then, which may not be realistic, because later on we realize, 2 days after the board meeting when we're back in our hometown, we realize, or we even forget about all those things that we had agreed to do. I think that's a lesson for all of the members of the board, to be very careful about that. That if the co-chair says, can you do such and such, it's better to say no than yes and not do it. So, I don't know if that really answers your question, but...
I'm not sure what my question was. Well, let's just finish up. Do you have any specific recollections of the last few conventions? Charlotte, Fort Lauderdale, Philadelphia, San Francisco, New Orleans.
Fort Lauderdale I loved because I could swim in the ocean, and the water, the Atlantic Ocean, and the water was very warm, and the hotel was right across the beach. That is my favorite part of the Fort Lauderdale convention. Also, I think I really enjoyed the banquet at the Fort Lauderdale convention. The Philadelphia convention in '99 I loved very much. We were downtown Philadelphia, very much in the action in the heart of the city, and our banquet, albeit very long, was very, very interesting. interesting and very varied. We had the, what did they call those
The
people?
mummers.
The mummers came and danced through the banquet room. And also the mayor of Philadelphia came and presented us with a plaque. And also as treasurer, I was able to sit up at the head table, almost next to the mayor. And again,
That was Mayor Rendell.
Was it?
Yeah,
I
he
don't
was
think
later-
he's mayor now. But
No, but he was
mayor
later
then.
chairman of the Democratic National Committee.
That's right. That's right. And again, it brought for me the Philadelphia Convention brought for me a higher level of what this organization is and what it can do, and to have the mayor of a major American city like Philadelphia come to our convention and present us with that plaque and be involved in that and be part of that was really a wonderful feeling for me. And I felt it was really a boost for the organization. And then a highlight of the, what convention was 2000? Oh, San Francisco Convention. San Francisco Convention was cold. San Francisco Convention, I must say, was, I was a little disappointed in this San Francisco Convention, and I want to be careful about hurting anyone's feelings who was involved in that, because I know at that time I was living in Oakland, California, so I was a little bit involved in the planning committee, in the CPC, the Convention Planning Committee meetings. And I know what hard work they did. They really worked hard to pull that convention off. But there was something casual about that convention that maybe it was San Francisco, California style, but it was a little bit too relaxed, and there's a little bit too much of a party. And I felt less of more political business aspects of what this organization needs to be.
What about the last one, New Orleans?
New Orleans, from everyone I heard, it was a wonderful convention. The program was spectacular. I unfortunately spent most of the time not feeling very well and not able to attend a lot of the workshops and a lot of the events. And I also, again, it was the last of my, I hadn't prepared my treasurer's report properly prior to going to New Orleans for the convention, so I had a lot of the work to do there and still didn't have enough time to do it. And so I'm not sure I was there at that convention.
Well, let me ask you this. You've attended 11 or 12 conventions, including the last 11. How have you, if you have, seen our conventions change over time? Do you think our conventions are different than they used to be? Do you think the organization is different?
I think it's sort of like what the French say, the more things change, the more things are the same. We still sit in those boardrooms. We still sit in those workshop rooms at our convention. And pretty much have a very similar dynamic in the sense of people getting very heated over issues and verbal fights and disagreements and people doing their job well or people not doing their job well. I think that what I was talking about before in terms of my losing steam by the 4th year of my being treasurer, I think that in a way the organization has lost a lot of steam. That currently we're mulling about quite a bit. and that over the years, our conventions have become less important. It's sad to say. And I think perhaps subconsciously a lot of us are questioning a lot more the importance of our organization, or the need of our organization, or the value of our organization, or the validity of our organization. And as a result, a lot of the work that we set out to do is not getting done. And our conventions I fear the organization seems to be losing its steam and its relevance and its need and its value to the individual members that it had in previous years. And it's hard to be totally objective about that because, of course, I've changed. I've gotten older. And the organization means something different to me now. So I can't be sure of what's actually happening or what changes I see because of what's changing in me. And I think it's at the same time you need to ask the question to people that are new to the organization and what they feel the organization is for them at this time. And you might find that the organization is for them at this time what it was for me in 1985 when I attended the first convention. And in 1985 when I attended the first convention, I thought, oh, wow, the NAPWMT, wow. Their shit don't stink. Can I say that on the air?
You've said it.
You know, I mean, I was humbled, and it was like this big national organization, and it's really highfalutin people, if you will. And of course, that was in 1985, and I was much younger. And of course, I go into a convention now, not seeing it the same way because I'm a lot more jaded. However, I can't speak for someone who is now the age I was in 1985 and attends a convention, and you may have that same kind of feeling of being impressed in the same way I was by the organization.
Well, what does this organization mean to you now?
This organization, for a 19-year association with it that I've had, since 82 to 2001, means almost entirely who I am as a social human being. Because nearly everyone I know on a social level I have met through the organization. Practically all my friends I've met through the organization. And this organization, as I've said perhaps too many times in this interview, this organization is and always has been a real validation for PaulC1 as a gay man, as a, first of all, and as a man attracted to men of color, attracted to black men, and as a man who is very interested in in racism in our society, in the effect of it. And this organization has helped me to be the man who is dealing with his own racism, homophobia, and sexism to a lesser extent, but it has helped me realize, first of all, the racism that's still in me and deal with it. And this organization has helped foster whatever leadership qualities I have. I've been able to hone through NAPWMT more so than any other aspect of my life. NABWMT has enabled me to stand up before an audience of NABWMT or any audience and deal with my gayness, my sexual attraction, my who I am as a person. Much more given me lifted me up in that sense and enabled me to stand up and be who I am.
Well, in the 19 years that you've been in this organization, how have you seen race relations change?
Not much. I don't think I've seen them change all that much.
You think they...
I'm not sure they're that much better. I'd like to think that individually, on a personal level, my race relations have improved. That more so than the average person, I have a great deal of connections with people of color. And my race relations have improved.
Do you think that race...
I'm
sorry. Do you think that race relations within the organization have changed at all in that time?
Well, it's so hard to see something, see the inside of the bottle when you're outside, or see the outside when you're inside. But sometimes I think yes, and sometimes I think no. Sometimes I think that we have often had the same dynamic that has always been there between black and white. You and I were just talking about a couple we know that in the year 2001 are having the same kind of conflict due to the black and white issues that we may have had in 1982, 19 years ago. So I'm not all that confident that there's been a great deal of improvement. Surely there's been some, but and BWMT has helped in that regard. For those of us involved in the organization, has helped improve our ability to have good race relations. But not a lot. Not a lot.
Well, what do you like best about this organization? And conversely, what do you like least?
Well, I like you. And I know you because of this organization. The people I know. The people I know in the organization. Again, my closest friends, presently, I know through the organization. The people I care the most about